Settle in. This is Unintended Consequences, Episode 11. It's May 18th, 2026. Starting the week with a case study you'll be thinking about for days. In September 2006, Facebook rolled out its news feed feature to give every user a personalized stream of updates rather than forcing them to hunt across separate profile pages. The engineers who built the first ranking systems wanted people to see the posts that mattered most to them, measured by clicks, likes, and comments. What the math actually rewarded, however, was the material that triggered the strongest emotional reaction, turning a tool meant to strengthen connections into one that amplified division at global scale. Mark Zuckerberg and the small team at Facebook in the mid-2000s faced a straightforward problem. The platform was growing so quickly that users could no longer keep up with everything their friends posted. They believed a well-designed ranking system would solve information overload by surfacing the most relevant content first, making the site more useful and therefore more likely to keep people coming back. At the time, this approach felt like straightforward product improvement rather than a political intervention. The company was still primarily a college networking tool, expanding into a general social network. Early employees drew on familiar ideas from information retrieval and basic machine learning to predict what a user would find interesting, treating engagement as a neutral proxy for value. The decision reflected the dominant Silicon Valley assumption that giving users more of what they demonstrably chose would produce better experiences for everyone involved. Facebook introduced its first public ranking system, called EdgeRank, in 2009. It scored posts according to affinity, weight, and time decay so that higher scoring items appeared higher in the feed. The change coincided with rapid growth. Monthly active users rose from roughly 100 million in 2008 to more than 500 million by 2010. Company statements at the time emphasized that the algorithm simply helped users see the stories they care about most. A handful of academics and early critics, including researchers studying online political discussion, warned that optimizing for engagement could favor sensational or emotionally charged material. These concerns received limited internal traction. Success metrics inside the company focused on time spent on site and daily active users, both of which rose sharply after the ranking changes. The ranking systems quickly learned that content eliciting anger or moral outrage produced reliably higher engagement than neutral or positive posts. Users were more likely to comment, share, or linger when provoked. Internal documents later reviewed by researchers showed that posts expressing outrage traveled farther and faster through the network than comparable neutral content. Over successive iterations, the algorithm therefore began prioritizing material that triggered those reactions, gradually reshaping what users saw even when they had not actively sought it. This created self-reinforcing loops in which groups with opposing views received increasingly divergent versions of events, deepening existing disagreements rather than exposing users to shared facts. Political actors and content creators adapted to the new incentives, producing more emotionally charged material because it reached larger audiences and generated more revenue through advertising. Second-order effects included measurable increases in effective polarization documented in multiple countries after 2012, alongside the rapid spread of misleading or context-free claims that performed well under the engagement metric. The same logic that surfaced of friends' wedding photos also elevated graphic videos or inflammatory headlines, because both categories kept people scrolling. By the time Facebook's own researchers examined the pattern in studies that surfaced publicly in 2021, the platform had already become a primary information source for hundreds of millions of users worldwide. After the 2021 release of internal research and whistleblower testimony, Facebook announced adjustments to its ranking systems aimed at reducing the distribution of content that incited anger. Those adjustments included temporary reductions in the weight given to reshares. Some of those changes were later rolled back when engagement metrics declined. External pressure produced new oversight mechanisms in Europe and proposed legislation in the United States. Yet the core engagement-based ranking logic remained in place across major platforms. Subsequent attempts to introduce meaningful social interaction signals or downrank certain categories of content produced mixed results. Sometimes the same dynamic shifted to new formats, such as short video. The company and its successors continue to rely on similar optimization frameworks while experimenting with additional guardrails. When a system uses a single, easily measured signal, such as engagement, to stand in for a complex goal like relevance, the signal tends to capture the most extreme versions of the desired behavior. Designers who treat early metrics as neutral often discover later that those metrics already embed strong, unexamined preferences for particular outcomes. Small changes in ranking rules can scale rapidly because they shape what millions of people see every day, turning technical choices into de facto public policy. How might we evaluate new ranking or recommendation systems today if we treated engagement not as an unquestioned good, but as one variable among several that require deliberate counterweights? That's unintended consequences for today. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with a friend who'd appreciate the story. Subscribe wherever you listen, and we'll be back tomorrow with another case. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.